This episode may contain content of a graphic nature, including descriptions of physical and sexual violence against adults, children, and animals. Listener discretion is advised. Hi everyone, I'm Talia.
And I'm Tanya.
And together we are Crimes and Consequences, a true crime podcast. Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Talia.
Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Crimes and Consequences. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe or follow button.
And if you haven't, why not?
I don't know why they wouldn't. They should.
You should. Please.
So this week's story, it's not gruesome. And I know that it's kind of been done before, but I didn't know anything about it. So that made me want to learn about it.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Allison Schwartz for helping write and research this case. This one is there's a couple that I know are called the Craigslist killer.
Okay.
One of them we did, but we named it like...
Something else?
Yeah.
Oh, that freak.
Yeah.
Pain is for learning?
Pain is for learning.
Yes.
Yeah. With that being said, are you ready?
I am.
All right. Well, all of us would like to think we'd know if we crossed the path with a serial killer. Or a killer, right?
I would like to know.
I would really like to know.
I think I would know, but maybe not.
I'm pretty sure we have and don't know.
You're right.
Maybe there would be some sensory indicators, like a feeling of some sort of like, that pit in your stomach warning you not to come any closer to that person. Maybe. But I haven't, I get that, but that feeling, but it's usually just because the people look creepy. As true crime fans, we hope that someone capable of murder would look, like I was just saying, outwardly sinister, or they would exhibit something that made us know to just stay away. But that's not always the truth. As we know, many killers look like normal people, doctors and dentists. And at some point in their life, they're successful enough to gain their victims' trust to get them alone, right?
Right.
And then do nasty things to them.
Yes.
So this is about 23-year-old Philip Markoff. Do you know Philip Markoff?
When you said you were working on this story, I kind of remembered it. Wasn't he good looking?
Yeah, that's what. I was just gonna say. He was handsome, intelligent, well liked. I mean, he's not my type, but by all appearances, he had this bright future ahead of him. Not only had he landed this coveted spot at Boston University School of Medicine.
Oh,
that's impressive.
It is.
He was also engaged to this bubbly redhead who had similar medical aspirations. The part of the story that's really shocking is it's just really hard to believe that this promising young academic would dominate headlines for a string of violent crimes. Kind of like why it was shocking about Ted Bundy,
Yeah.
Same idea. Halfway through medical school, he would become known as the Craigslist killer. On October 14th of 2009, so it's not, it's older, but it's not old.
Right.
The life he had built faded away with the last shallow breath of his unsuspecting victim.
Ooh, that was a good one. I like that.
Thank you. Allison wrote that line. Let me tell you a little bit about Philip. He was born Philip Haynes Markoff on February 12th in 1986 in Sherrill, New York. It's a small upstate town, and it's got less than 3,000 people. So, there wasn't a lot of things to do there. Most of the time, Philip spent hanging out with his older brother, John. And from an early age, they were inseparable. They were brothers, and they were actually close, unlike some siblings, such as my children, that fight all the time. The boy's mother, her name was Susan. She focused on child rearing, while their father, Richard, he worked a lot to make ends meet. To support his family, Richard made a 40-minute commute each way to Syracuse, and he had his own dental practice. So, he already has an hour and, 20 minutes of driving plus his own dental practice. The daily grind got too much for the Markoffs' marriage, and they divorced when Philip was only a few years old. And after that, Richard, for some reason, he mostly just faded from his son's lives. Maybe he's too busy doing dental work. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Too busy for his kids.
Right?
I see. Okay.
So Susan remarried, and her second husband, he was a banker. His name was Gary Carroll, and he treated Philip and John like his own flesh and blood. I mean, he was really good to them. And it was a really happy occasion when the boy's half-sister, her name was Haley, was born. The blended family lived in this 2-story colonial home, had some blue siding in the quiet Sherrill neighborhood. They seemed like the typical modern American family to anyone who knew them. But you know what? That marriage eventually ended too.
Oh, that's too bad.
It was around the time Philip and Haley were in high school. Philip had grown into an athletic teen, and as I said, he was well-groomed. He had blonde hair, shimmering blue eyes, as some described him. And he was 6'3". So he got basically all the ladies, all the students at Vernon, Verona, Sherrill High School. And they all liked him. He was on the school's bowling team.
Bowling?
Bowling, I know.
Really?
That's okay.
That's okay. That's cool.
I like to bowl.
I love to bowl. Like, can I bowl? No. I'm a shitty bowler, but...
And he was on the golf team. But he didn't have the dumb jock stereotype. And I don't really know if being on the bowling and golf team would really give you any
that
sort
reputation.
of jock stereotype. But I'm not judging.
Hey, they're sports, right?
That's true. He had really impeccable grades, and he was on the National Honor Society. Philip's many friends, because he had a lot of friends, considered it really well-earned when he got accepted into SUNY, I think it's called, SUNY, Albany's competitive pre-med program. Now, following graduation, he went on to Boston University School of Medicine, and he attended classes. And he also volunteered at Albany Medical Center Hospital emergency rooms. Like, everything's going really well.
Yeah.
Everything's great. He's handsome, he's bold, he's golfed, he's volunteering, and he's in
going
school.
to medical school.
The unpaid work gave him valuable hands-on medical experience while he was awaiting residency placement. It was also while volunteering there that he met 25-year-old New Jersey native Megan McAllister. In 2007, I'm going to give you a little background on Megan. Megan was a senior in Boston University's pre-med program, and Philip was a sophomore in med school. Megan was immediately drawn to his dashing good looks.
Yeah.
And he had a very lighthearted personality. And she asked Philip out on a date.
Oh, she got bold.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very brazen. A relationship quickly blossomed. The following year, the happy couple got engaged.
Aw, that's nice.
Everything's perfect for Megan.
Yeah.
She's got this great guy. Yeah. Everybody was really excited. Her family liked Philip. In traditional Northeast fashion, Megan and Philip began planning this very lavish wedding. It was slated for August of 2009, and Megan planned to wait until the fall to start medical school because she really wanted to focus a lot of time on the wedding.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's no secret medical school is very costly, right?
Right.
And Philip was in debt to the tune of $130,000.
Oh, that's nothing. No,
Yeah, he did, and he obviously didn't go to law school.
Yeah.
And while the bulk of it was student loans, he allegedly had a bit of a gambling problem, too.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's unclear if Megan was aware of just how deep in debt Philip was. They lived in an area called Quincy, and that's a trendy neighborhood of Boston. And as I said, they were planning this lavish wedding, so they were going to spare no expense. One way or another, Philip had to maintain this, what's the word I'm looking for?
Facade?
Facade, thank you.
You're welcome.
For the woman he loved. And money seemed to be the driving force in the crime spree that would soon follow. He identified victims he perceived to be easy targets, which we have an episode called Easy Targets.
Yes, we do.
Sex workers he found on Craigslist.
It is dangerous to be a sex worker.
It very much is.
We have a ton of episodes.
I know. They
it's just sad.
Kind of are.
Yeah.
Easy targets, unfortunately.
And sometimes the police.
Yeah.
That's
a whole nother.
Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion.
Yes.
But
Philip correctly surmised that high-end escorts would carry greater sums of cash on them, and he had plans to exploit that vulnerability. So let me go into some details of the crimes. In April of 2009, the classified ad site Craigslist. Now, I don't go on Craigslist. Do they even have Craigslist anymore?
I have no idea. I
I
remember.
used to go on it.
Yeah, I have gone on it in the past. Probably been like since 2009.
Well, they used to have, which is a now defunct, erotic services section.
Okay. I'd never been in the erotic services section.
Which was a way for escorts to advertise their sexual offerings. In a way, it functioned as a screening tool. Those in the sex industry could communicate like safety tips and warn which Johns to avoid. Now, again, I don't know anything about that escort service thing, but I guess they could communicate or something. I don't know.
Maybe there was a message board or something.
Right. It also gave sex workers a sense of agency rather than relying like on a pimp to arrange work. Tragically, this section also could be a hunting ground for predators like Philip Markoff. On April 10th of 2009, he responded to an ad placed on Craigslist by a Las Vegas escort named Trisha Leffler. She happened to be in Boston that night, and she made this posting with a heading, quote, "Sweet Blonde." She and Philip exchanged texts, and then they arranged to meet outside the elevator in the lobby of this upscale Westin Copley Place hotel. So it's a Westin. So it's nice.
It's nice.
This was Trisha's only safety protocol. She would size up the clients in the lobby to avoid telling them her exact room number. And if she got the creeped out vibes, she'd walk away. But as I described Philip to you, she didn't get any creeped out vibes. She probably rarely got people that were attractive. I mean, I'm not trying to judge people. I'm just saying. Right away, though, once they were in the room, he made his intentions clear. He pointed a gun at her chest and he told her, quote, "Do everything I say and I won't hurt you." He ordered her to lie flat on her stomach. Then he proceeded to bound her with plastic zip ties and duct taped her mouth shut.
Oof.
As she laid on the floor, she's trembling and she's defenseless. He stole the $800 in cash she had stuffed in her purse, along with a few credit cards. Now, I'm wondering to myself why escorts would carry so much cash, but apparently...
Maybe because she had another person come
right before or something?
Maybe.
Since she cooperated, Philip stayed true to his word, and he left her pretty much just shaken but unharmed. As Philip sauntered away through the hotel corridor, a security camera captured his movements, and this would end up later being really substantial evidence against him. Of course, Trisha reported the robbery to the police. She did. And I bet he really didn't think that she would do that.
Right.
But the man that they saw on the security footage looks so much like your typical white college student that they really couldn't discern who he was. He was wearing khakis and a button-down shirt. And again, he had blonde hair that was tucked under a baseball cap. And he didn't really have any distinctive enough features to get caught, which he kind of knew. I mean, it's just like your typical...
Yeah, average all-American college kid.
4 days later, on April 14th, the body of Julissa Brisman was found at the Copley Marriott. Julissa used an alias when she interacted with Philip, and vice versa. He used one too. His alias was Andy, and hers was Morgan. All of their communication happened via email or text messages. And to further protect his identity, Philip used a disposable phone.
A burner phone.
A burner phone, thank you.
I was just thinking that, like, couldn't they trace the cell phone record to him? But no, he had a burner phone.
He had a burner phone. Julissa, let me give you a little background on her. She had a lot of ambition, but she had a lot of obstacles that she faced in life. She was a 24-year-old, and she was from New York City. She wanted to be an actress, and she sometimes took modeling gigs to help pay her bills. She wanted to eventually become a drug counselor and hoped to attend college in the fall of 2009. But like so many people from New York, she was, especially when they're younger, struggling to keep up with the city's high cost of living. While employed part-time at a tanning salon, the owner offered to help her find sex work.
Wow.
I was working at a tanning salon.
That's creepy.
What the hell is that?
Like the owner's like, hey,
I
you need to make some more money? Gross.
Right? None of her friends or loved ones had any clue about her secret side hustle. Using her image, Julissa's boss placed an ad on Craigslist for her, offering her services as an erotic masseuse. I wonder what he got out of it. She must be giving him a cut.
She must have been.
The listing that Philip found said that she'd be visiting Boston for 3 days, and he jumped at the chance to get his hands on easy money. Plus, you have a victim that's from out of town.
Right, that's true.
He arrived at her room at 9:41 p.m. A few minutes after 10, she was already dead.
Ugh.
According to the Suffolk County DA, his name was Daniel Conley, in an interview with ABC News, the murder was committed in a very personal and violent way. Julissa was 5'5". She was petite. She was from the Dominican Republic. She was brunette. She was found battered and bloody in the doorway of her hotel room. Nearby guests had heard gunshots and notified authorities about a potential shooting. Responding officers were shocked by the brutal crime. Her skull had been bashed in.
Oh.
And like I said, she was beaten. And then she was shot 3 times at close range at a hotel.
That's crazy to me.
At a hotel.
That's just insane to me. Those walls are fucking paper thin. I've never stayed in a hotel, no matter how nice it is, where I couldn't hear like doors slamming outside.
Gunshot, you can hear the conversation.
Exactly.
Come on. The bullets ended up tearing through her chest, her heart, and her abdomen. And there was no reason to shoot her 3 times. The heart and the chest and the abdomen, all of them would have killed her anyway. Amidst the carnage, officers noticed a single plastic zip tie clinging to her wrist. Though she was transported to a nearby hospital, she died in the hotel. So he must have attempted to restrain her, and then she struggled, and that's when he just decided he needed to rob her. And I guess that's what
He's bigger than she is, and I mean, if he had physically assaulted her, hit her, whatever. I mean, she's a little tiny thing, and he's tall.
Well, he let Trisha live.
I know, that's what I'm curious about. Like, okay, he has a gun, and when he was with Trisha, he pulled it on her. So did he do the same thing to Julissa? Only, what, she like fuck off, and then all of a sudden he started beating her?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then shot her?
When Julissa first began being a sex worker, her boss had put a safety system in place.
Okay, what is that? What was that safety system? I need to know.
After receiving a payment from a John, Julissa was instructed to text as confirmation of a successful transaction. On April 14th, he didn't receive that text. So her boss grew really concerned and contacted police despite the illegal arrangement. And within hours, detectives were at the scene collecting forensic evidence left behind, and they knew who she was and had an idea of what happened. Julissa's boss was interviewed, and they ruled him out as a suspect in her murder. He's the one that called. But still, we have cases where the murderer actually calls.
Mm-hmm.
His account gave investigators a direct pathway to her killer. Due to electronic communication between Julissa and her killer, detectives could digitally trace their way back to Philip Markoff. And I'm not sure if he didn't use a burner phone at some point.
Well, if he emailed, couldn't you trace it through an IP address or something?
There you go. But they had trouble tracking him down at first. And investigators that worked around the clock, hoping to find him before he would commit another crime. Before I tell you more, because there are more victims, we're going to take a quick break. 2 days after Julissa's body was found, and this is April 16th, detectives caught wind of a crime in Warwick, Rhode Island. The details, it was a robbery, had glaring similarities with the robbery of Trisha Leffler that I told you about, the first victim. This time, erotic dancer Cynthia Melton was robbed in her room at the Holiday Inn Express. Like Trisha and Julissa, her wrists were bound with plastic zip ties, and she'd been robbed at gunpoint. And she ended up giving a description of her attacker, which matched the description Trisha gave and matched the footage from the West End Hotel. She might have become another murder victim if it hadn't been for her husband.
Oh, boy.
In an instance of sheer luck, Cynthia's husband, his name was Keith, knocked on her hotel room door in the middle of the robbery.
Oh, shit.
Now, I'm not sure why she's in that hotel room. I'm assuming because she was an exotic dancer that did a hustle on the side.
Mm-hmm.
This disruption caught Philip completely off guard because he'd assumed that Cynthia was there alone like his other 2 victims, but surprise, surprise, her husband shows up. So he pistol whips Keith before fleeing the scene. Investigators would later remark on the sheer arrogance Philip's crimes conveyed. As he got more bold, it became evident he thought that he would never get caught. Detectives couldn't tell if this serial offender would attack or kill again. He's got 3 victims, and 1 was savagely murdered. So obviously, they really need to catch him because if he can kill once,
right,
he can kill again. To this day, just so you know, a little FYI, Craigslist listings. So apparently they do have Craigslist. I mean, I could have Googled that, but I didn't. Generate a proxy email address that forwards any response to a poster's real email address. So you have like a middleman email address proxy. Through digital tracing, it was determined that the assailant had created a new email address strictly to communicate with his victims to surpass the veil of
anonymity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Suffolk County investigators work with Microsoft, and they trace the IP address associated with the email account. This information led detectives to the Quincy apartment building where poor Megan...
Oh, shit, I forgot about Megan. Oh, damn, poor Megan.
was there.
Planning her beautiful wedding.
Living with Philip.
Oh, son of a bitch.
They were able to narrow the suspect pool to 100 individuals. I guess that's everybody that's living in that Quincy apartment complex that's man. But then we had those hotel surveillance tapes that I was telling you about, and there were more in cases. And they could tell after looking at all the different surveillance tapes that it was the same person in each crime. So that was important. Eventually, they narrowed it down to Philip. Long story short. They obtained a search warrant for Megan and Philip's apartment. No one was home when the search got underway. And when they searched the apartment, they found several pieces of evidence tying Philip to the crimes. Hidden in the box spring of the bed he and his fiancée shared were rolled up socks concealing 4 pairs of women's underwear. Now, this puzzled detectives since none of his 3 victims had shown signs of sexual assault and they weren't missing their underwear.
This is weird.
Between the mattress, they also found 60 pairs of plastic flex cuff restraints, identical to the ones used to bind all the 3 women. Now, could you imagine if Megan had...
changing the sheets or something?
And found 60 pairs of plastic flex cuffs?
That's so... I would be like, what the fuck is this? Right? I don't know. That'd be so
and
weird.
Some women some women's undergarments.
Like, she's just
flipping... box spring.
Maybe she's just flipping the mattress.
Cleaning under the bed. Even more damning, a deeper probe led to the discovery of a hollowed-out copy of the medical textbook Gray's Anatomy. Philip hollowed it out, and inside there was a 9mm semi-automatic rifle with ammunition.
Great place to hide it. Dumbass. God.
What if she decided to read the textbook?
She was a med student, too.
I mean, they hollow out Gray's Anatomy. You couldn't put in the box springs.
Couldn't put it, yeah, or why didn't you just put it in a dictionary? Nobody looks at that.
That's true. Forensic testing revealed bullets from the gun matched the shell casings gathered at Julissa Brisman's hotel room, and so they had their murder weapon. Suffolk County detectives expanded their search because they're still looking for Philip.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They don't have him, to the entire state of Massachusetts. Finally, on April 20th, they managed to track down Philip's car on I-95 just outside of Walpole, Massachusetts. He and Megan were headed south towards Foxwoods Casino in Ledyard, Connecticut. So I guess they were gone on a vacation, like going on a little not staycation, but a little getaway. A little getaway at the casino. And he was taken into police custody under suspicion of homicide. When he was searched at Boston Police Headquarters, Philip had in his possession the money he'd stolen from all 3 victims because he'd managed to take money from all 3. He also had his burner phone on him, and that evidence was collected. That's enough to get him arrested.
Yeah.
Philip faced 3 felony charges: homicide, armed robbery, and assault with a deadly weapon, and he pled not guilty. For the first few days, Megan stood by her man. In an email to ABC News, she wrote that Philip, quote, could not hurt a fly.
You don't want to believe it, though.
Yeah, I know. And you wouldn't think, like,
in her defense, right?
She told reporters for People.com her fiancé was, quote, a beautiful man inside and out. Poor Megan.
I know. That's so shitty.
And she kept insisting he was an innocent man. But the media coverage of Philip's alleged crimes soon led to a dramatic change of heart for her.
Yeah.
On June 22nd, Megan visited Philip at the jail that he was in, and she was there to specifically break off the engagement. She's done. According to her lawyer, who spoke to ABC News, quote, she told him that she planned to attend medical school and also let him know, and that she did not expect to return to Boston, and it would be quite a long period of time, if ever, before she saw him again. So
well, that was kind of nice.
I know, that's really nice, because I
would have a few choice words to say.
I know.
I wouldn't be like, okay, well, I won't be coming back to Boston. I'd be like, fuck you.
Right.
You piece of shit.
Right.
How dare you try to ruin my life? How could you do this to people?
Well, this really hurt Philip.
Really?
It really hurt him.
He thought she would stand by and...
I think he thought he could get away with it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Fool everybody.
Well, dude, they found the gun. They find your burner phone. They have you on...
You have the cash.
Yeah, you have the cash. You're on a video. I mean, come on.
I mean, you have two witnesses alive that can identify you.
Yeah, he might look like your average college student, but...
They're still going to be able to identify him. So the very next day, he tried to kill himself.
Oh, God.
He started sawing at his wrist with a serrated spoon hidden in his cell.
A spork?
No, it was a spoon.
A serrated spoon?
I guess it had to be a spork. No, I don't know. I don't know.
Right? That's kind of comical. I'm sorry.
It's not comical.
A little bit.
Maybe he made it serrated.
Maybe.
After receiving medical attention, he was placed on 24-hour suicide watch. The trial was initially set for July 2010, and it got postponed when the state of Rhode Island announced they were filing their own felony charges. This ended up setting back the Massachusetts trial until March of 2011. There was a pretrial hearing, and the prosecutor laid out all the evidence, the witness statements, digital recordings, and they surmised, like we had talked about, that perhaps Jalissa had been killed after refusing to comply with his demands, and maybe she tried to fight back. I mean, the blunt force trauma that she received, her skull was just crushed, suggested some sort of act of retaliation. And they've theorized that during the struggle, Philip got her onto the ground and just started ramming the butt of his gun into her head. This probably rendered her unconscious, but perhaps not. Well, eventually, though, she would have been. And then he probably panicked and just fired 3 times. But one of the things that the prosecutor didn't have was any DNA evidence. So that was what Philip's defense team was going to focus on. They had no fingerprints. And according to Trisha and Cynthia's testimony, their attacker wore gloves. Either way, like we already said.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of evidence. And of course, this case hit international headlines. His attorney expressed how the jury pool was poisoned by how, everybody knew about this case. And they asked for a change of venue, but the judge opted to proceed. A few days later, Philip tried to commit suicide for a second time, and he didn't succeed. And once again, he was placed on suicide watch in jail.
I know, wasn't he on suicide watch?
I guess times passed by. I guess they
were a little lax at watching him.
Exactly. Philip's third and final attempt to end his life was successful.
Oh, man.
On August 15th, 2010, that would have been the 1-year anniversary of what would have been his wedding day.
Oh.
He was found dead in his jail cell, covered by prison-issued blankets. He had killed himself by scraping a pen and a piece of metal against the bed frame in a cell, which had ended up creating almost a primitive scalpel.
Oh.
So he took this pen and some piece of metal, and he used that to make...
The metal was probably like the blade?
I guess.
And he attached it to this pen, maybe.
Something like that.
That's crazy.
He used this makeshift blade to slash major arteries in his ankles, legs, and neck. Oh, I know. Philip placed a plastic bag beneath him to catch any pooled blood so the guards wouldn't find him before he bled to death. He really thought about it.
Yeah, he did.
And to ensure he wasn't revived, he swallowed toilet paper and tightened a plastic bag over his head. It was clear from, like, you know, he's got that medical background that he finally figured out how to do it.
What's the swallowing toilet paper do?
Make it so he can't breathe that much, and then he's got the bag around him.
Okay. That's like stopped up in your esophagus?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just curious.
He's gagging himself. Guards had no idea anything was amiss until the following morning. When they found Philip, he had surrounded himself with a shrine to Megan.
Oh, Lord. Poor Megan.
He had old photographs of the happy couple. And that's what his cell was like. It was like a shrine to Megan. Above the cell door and out of view from correctional officers, Philip had scrawled Megan's name in his own blood.
Wow. That's weird.
Isn't that weird?
And then he killed himself on the day they were supposed, like the anniversary of their wedding day. That's just wanting to make her feel bad, I feel.
Yeah, I know.
Like, can you blame her? You killed someone and...
I don't know what he expected.
I know.
Julissa's family was understandably really devastated that Philip committed suicide. They really wanted to see him get justice. And they felt that they'd been deprived of that.
I get it.
In my humble opinion, had Philip gone to trial for homicide, he would have been found guilty and sentenced to mandatory life in prison, but that's just my opinion. And that is how Philip became known as the Craigslist killer. But of course, as I said, he's definitely not the only one that's been linked to that website. Because when I was looking up Craigslist killers, there were a couple that popped.
Different ones. Great.
As reported, but now listen to this. As reported by Law Street Media in 2015, 86 murders were linked to Craigslist.
Wow, really?
Yeah. It's hard to say how many the total number is at the present day. But, I mean, as we know, with social media and all those websites, what was that one? Backdoor and all. Remember
something
back
like
then?
that, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people, a lot of victims, sex workers that have died as a result of something similar to Craigslist. Since Philip's crimes, Craigslist has made some changes. The personal section, under which there was that subsection of erotic encounters or whatever it was, they discontinued that in only March of 2018.
Wow, really?
I know.
Damn.
I feel like that was
It took
illegal.
them a long time to make that decision.
Yeah, there were some Senate bills that passed and some laws that changed, fight online sex trafficking and all that. And that required platforms to be held accountable for their role. So they stopped it.
That's what it finally took them to take it down.
Laws,
the laws.
So I guess in the end, the question is, like, what was his motive behind the crime? Now we know it was money. Was he trying to cover up the gambling debts, pay for his wedding? Or did it become maybe a thrill for him? Because, I mean, he's not going to...
How much
he was $130,000 in debt.
Right. Did he think he was going to get like thousands, tens of thousands of dollars?
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's the question. Like, there had to have been a thrill.
Had to have been. Like, maybe after the first time, he was kind of like, oh, that was really exciting, maybe.
And he only got $800.
I know. That's what I'm like, I mean, I really think he's going to rob like 130 women and get $1,000 off of every single one of them, and that's how he was going to pay for it. I think you're right. I think it was a thrill.
There was a book, and it was called 7 Days of Rage, and it's about Philip. And the authors refer to online interaction obtained by detectives suggesting that Philip had a big secret. Through an account on a BDSM website called, I'm not going to say it, his correspondence with female and male individuals who dressed in women's clothing were discovered. And he expressed an interest in exploring his submissive side with both females and males. But I don't know if that really had anything to do with the crime, as much as showing that there's another side to Philip that no one knew about. And that is the story of the Craigslist killer, Philip Markoff. He seemed like an ordinary guy.
Yeah, I forgot how it ended, so that was a bit of a surprise for me.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Because I was sitting here thinking, yeah, where is this guy today? Well.
Now you know.
Now I know. Anyway, well, thank you, Talia.
We don't even know for sure where he is.
No.
Could be a couple different places.
That's true. Well, thank you, Talia, for this week's episode.
For listening to this. And I guess it's one of those you can't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, for real.
Because you think someone's handsome, they can't possibly hurt you.
Yeah, I think that's what happens.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it, probably.
Thank you all for taking the time to listen to us. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe/follow button. And you can see some pictures of this case if you go to our website, crimesandconsequences.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hardcore True Crime. And we have a Patreon and also an Apple subscription. So if you have Apple and you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can subscribe to us. And when you do, you get an episode only released to our special subscribers or Patreons every week, plus a mini every other week, and lots of great
ad-free.
Ad-free, thank you.
Release.
Early release.
Yes.
You can go to patreon.com/TNT Crimes if you want to become a Patreon. And you can find all our sources on our show notes.
Yep.
Anything else?
I think that's everything, Talia.
I think so.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And until our next episode.
Don't kill each other.
Bye.
Bye.